Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of a Frugal Athlete podcast. Today is a very special day, double trouble. I got two very special guests, two former athletes that are turned financial advisors. These are my favorite type of guests on the show because they can give you the best of both worlds. They understand what it's like playing. They understand what it's like managing the money. There's no tricks. There's no secrets. They can give it to you straight and direct. So today I have Mr. Mark Boyer and Mr. Jason Jacobi. How y'all doing today?
Doing great. Thanks, Jacobi. Good to
Fantastic.
see you, man. This is
Thanks
fun.
for having us.
Thanks for having us.
No, most definitely. It's really a pleasure. I'm so glad that we were able to get connected because of both of your stories. So I just want to get right into it, get some background. We'll start with you, Jason. Tell us a little bit about yourself and, how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thanks, Jacobi, for having us. It's a blessing to be here with you and Mark as well. But background. So I grew up predominantly in Newport Beach, California. Played football and basketball growing up, and then college football as well. Local here at Chapman University, small school, but had a good time there and played free safety for them. And luckily, I'm still able to walk a little bit after a couple of surgeries. But as I'm sure you know, but. Yeah. So after college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I actually was a sociology major with a minor in leadership and communication. So I knew I liked people. I wanted to serve people in whatever aspect that may have been. And so graduating, I was kind of like, well, what's next? What's going to happen here? Yeah. And I was in the hospitality world working at my family's restaurant as a manager, actually. And one of the other managers mentioned to me, he said, Jason, like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, I was newly married to Mark's daughter, actually, his middle daughter. And again, just trying to put food on the table at the time. And he goes, you got a new family. You're starting a family. Do you want to be making everyone else's memories on nights, weekends, holidays? Like, you're going to be working. Or do you want to be the one that, like, the patron that is at the restaurants with your family, enjoying and like building memories with them? And I thought to myself, that's a really good point. Having seen my parents, split up when I was a kid, hospitality was the field that my dad was in, hotels and restaurants. It was tough. Love both my parents, have great relationships with them, but wanted to take a different route. So got into the industry at a Fortune 500 financial company that same year in 2013. And kind of started just basically grinding, the head on the axe stone and trying to build my knowledge in the financial space because I was a sociology major, right? So I knew nothing. And it was really hard at first. But then finally, after about 5 years at that Fortune 500 company in Newport Beach, jumped over to being a financial advisor with Mark and been here ever since. So it's been a great journey, and I'm thankful to him for allowing me the chance to do that.
I love it. So Mark, you kind of you let him find his feet on his own before you brought him over, huh?
Yeah, I go learn from somebody else, right? He did a great job over there. I was watching him, kept talking to him, and finally he made that move over, and it was really it's fun. It's family. We're a family group here, Boyer Financial, and it's fun to be working with one of your son-in-laws. I let him marry my my third daughter back in the day. He passed the tests. And so he's a good man and worthy of all that he's doing. He's a special guy. So I'm grateful to have him on the team.
No, I love that. And let's get into your story too. You played professionally and decided to get into the financial space. What was that journey like for you?
Yeah. So I'm an old guy, as you can tell. I got the gray hair, 60 this last year. I played football. I played college football at University of Southern California. And while I was there, I got a degree in business finance with an emphasis in money and banking. And so I graduated 85 and then got drafted into the NFL. Played 8 years, played with the Colts, Indianapolis Colts, and the New York Jets for a few years. And then when I retired in 1994, I kind of knew, I liked working with people. I thought about two different things. I was thinking if I wanted to be a coach. A lot of my buddies were saying, hey, I want to go coach in the NFL and stay in it. And I used to, at the time we had 3 kids. My youngest was Melissa, who Jason married back in the day. And, I just had watched coaching like you probably, the players spend a lot of time playing, but then you get to go home, and then as you're leaving the parking lot, you see the coach's car still there. It's like, I don't know if I want to stay there anymore. Right. So I'm like, I want to know my family. And for me, I just wanted, I wanted to be around more. So yes, but at the same time, I had this coaching kind of like, I want to help people reach their potential and do, and help them get better at what they're doing. So I think that, the financial services area is kind of a place where you can do that. It's like I can coach people and help them reach their potential. And in our business, you talk about so much more than just money. There's so many different things. Sometimes I feel like I'm a marriage counselor and child psychologist. I mean, all this stuff, right? It's a part of it. So it was a natural for me to go into the business. And so I started work with a guy that actually was helping me with my money back when I was playing in Newport Beach. And then about 8 years later, the Lord just opened up some opportunities. I broke out on my own as an independent financial advisor 2002. So we've been doing it for about 20 years in our own company. And yeah, it's been a real blessing. And that's kind of been our road. And again, back to that kind of that coaching idea, it's like, I've really enjoyed it. I love the people. I love the relationships, all those things we experienced as team, as players and stuff. You can find a lot of that in this business. Just if you love people and want to help them meet their goals and objectives, this is a great business to be in.
That's amazing. And I want to get into that a little bit more because you guys are both former athletes. There's a lot of athletes that are transitioning into the financial services space. What makes athletes, a good transition for financial services? Jason, you spoke about, within a year you had that talk with the gentleman, and then you're already at a Fortune 500 company. Mark, 8 years in the league, you could rest on your laurels, but you went straight into it and proved to be successful. So what are the qualities that athletes have to make that transition, and then specifically in the financial services space?
Jason, I'll go first. I would say, what pops up to me right away is competitive. I think we like to win. I think, and it's not, you're not going to win on everything, but, in regards to, competing against the economy, the markets, all these things as you're building portfolios and putting game plans together. For me, it's that idea of sitting down and having a plan, building out a game plan and then, executing on that plan and then making the adjustments when you need to. I feel like I'm in a film room, watching game film from, we played yesterday. Now we're breaking it down and seeing how we can get better. And I think a part of, for me, it's all those competitive juices and sort of that camaraderie. Again, like I mentioned earlier, like helping people get to where they want to go. It's breaking it down. Where have we been? Where do we want to go? And building those plans out and kind of trying to execute them and then making adjustments as we go. So I see it as an athlete, from an athlete's perspective. That's been really true, and how much and why I enjoyed this business so much.
No, I love that
one area.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with Mark. First word I thought was competitive, and then I was like, yeah, that's definitely like the main thing is like the space is very competitive, but also I think, and Mark kind of mentioned as well, the drive and the want to be successful, and then enjoying the process, right? Because as athletes, you're conditioned from a very young age, whatever sport, sometimes multiple sports, until you get past the high school level. You got to make a choice. All right, hey, like I'm really good at soccer, football, basketball, whatever it is, and you're 100% of your focus at that time is on that sport. So conditioning yourself throughout all those years of putting in the hours, whether it's running, lifting, stretching, film, like study, whatever it may be, like that gets conditioned in your mind and then becomes a habit. And so when you're done playing, it's like, well, what do I do now? It's a very real thing for a lot of athletes. So I think that drive and that want to be successful, you have to channel that in a good way. And that's why it's such an easy transition for a lot of athletes. And a lot of companies love hiring athletes because they're competitive, they're driven, they're going to withstand really hard times, which whether you're an entrepreneur or you're getting into finance, and I'm sure Moby, you've experienced it. Like there's hard times and athletes know how to get through those hard times. It's about the process and just taking it step by step, whether it's recovery from injury or retirement or whatever it is, right? You just, you learn how to get through those really hard times. So it makes it an easy transition.
No, I love that. I appreciate y'all answering that because I think it's really important for athletes to understand that, sports is just a vehicle to your next game.
Mhm.
And if you set yourself up properly and learn the skills that's required from sport, you can be very successful down the road. What I like what you said about finance is being almost like a marriage counselor. Sometimes you're a behavioralist coach. How much of personal finance and money management is actually knowing the complexities around money, and how much of it is a behavior around the ups and downs? And I'm sure, depending on the time, it's either a lot of phone calls or it's easy going. Like so I would love one of you to explain what that dynamic is, or that balance.
Yeah, I think it is a bit of both, like you just said, Amobi. I think, especially this past year, 2022, you saw a lot of kind of the behavioral finance, the psychology of investing play out.
Mhm.
You had what is to be a dampening outlook on the economy. You have markets that are responding to that. And sometimes you have really bad days, 3, 4, 5% down, right? We've had those this past year. And so you're basically becoming a coaching counselor to your clients at that point and saying, hey, in reality, every 5.3 years, approximately, the market has a bear market or a correction of over 20%. Okay.
Mhm.
That's just the reality of it. So coaching and counseling your clients on that. And again, becoming at it from a thoughtful way, like, hey, none of us like losing money, or none of
Yeah.
us like seeing our balances down. But we have a game plan, like Mark's already mentioned and talked about. We have a solid base of a good financial plan that we put together with you as the client. And so as long as there's no new needs or arises for cash that need to be talked about or mentioned, we just need to stick to the game plan that we already have in place. Or even, now's a good time to get into the market because it's depreciated or it's gone down for this past year. So that's where the behavioral aspect comes in. And then obviously you have to have a good acumen. You have to know what you're talking about, because look at Google these days. Anybody can go on Google and kind of become an expert in a specific area.
That's true.
Or you're right. Or like
Yeah.
they can go and to Charles Schwab or Fidelity and kind of get it like a do-it-yourself portfolio that computers are a lot smarter than individuals, right? So you give them your money, the computer algorithms basically put you into different investments or ETFs, and you're going to do well over the long term. So yeah, I mean, you have to know what you're doing, but a lot of it is the personal side, the financial planning side that you need to get a handle on a little bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can you both talk about, when it comes to a financial advisor, like financial advising 101, there's different roles, you got the fiduciary, you got the different roles and responsibilities. For someone that's looking to get a financial advisor, what's the breakdown of the different roles and responsibilities, or the types?
Yeah, there's different, the financial advisors, there's CFPs, there's investment advisors, different things there. So CFP is a designation that a lot of people get. Jason just recently received his. It was a pretty intensive study. I did mine. The education through the years when I was at SC, and then and then coming out and working with a player. So there's different classifications. You can add your insurance license and get some other things in there as well involved as well. It's important, I think, and for people when they're looking financial advisors is to make sure that they have the qualifications necessary for what they're trying to achieve. That's important. It's like, it's like us in sports, right? As you get certain levels, each level was a different, required different skills and more mental approach. Like even to what Jason was mentioning earlier in your last question, sports are so mental.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the way we perform as you went up, this in soccer, as you went up each level, maybe, it's like the physical gifts were already there, but you needed to have the mental gifts and the mental ability to hang in there when it's tough, and also the knowledge to do the little things right. It's the little things. It's being an expert at the little things makes us. If we get really good at the little things, the big things start to really happen. And so, as financial advisors, we're trying to always, as we improve, take care of the little things and become experts in those areas, so that we can provide quality, investment advice and, overall wealth management approach to our clients throughout, all the areas that they're dealing with in those places. So
Most definitely.
so important.
Yeah. Mark, I want to ask you this because, you played professionally. Knowing what you know now, are there certain questions before you hire a financial advisor that you ask specifically as a professional athlete?
Again, I think, back to that, what are your qualifications? What's your, education? How long you've been doing this? What are, who do you work with? I know when I was looking for advisors, I knew some people that I had common ground with, the guy that I ended up as a player, because you can decide at the time, like, I want to do this myself. I mean, I knew what to do. I read all the money magazines as a player, when I was in the game and doing it, and wasn't making the money they make today, but it was really, it was a lot of money for me at 24 years of age. And, I could have, at that time, I could have tried to, manage it myself, but I knew I needed a coach. I needed somebody who was focused on this every day of their lives and somebody there. So for me, it was somebody who I knew and who had a background, had a long history of having been in the business for a long time. And I talked to some of the people that worked with this same person, and we shared values as far as Christian values of, different churches that, we had been involved with at the time. And so I found that this gentleman was somebody that, as I went to him, we connected, and he understood me, knew what I was trying to do. And actually, he was the guy that I worked with when I came out of football 8 years later, and spent some time with. So I think it's really important, like in all things, like when I think about coaches, that I coach, that I played with and for, it was really important for me to have a relationship with that coach that was where we connected, right? I mean, there's some coaches like you just never connect. It just doesn't, it's like oil and vinegar. It just doesn't work. And then, right. I mean, we all have those examples. Then there's other ones that, man, you just feel like this guy's got my back. He knows what he's talking about. He knows the little steps that I need to take. He pushes me in those, and he's not easy on me. He makes me get better. And those, that coach is the guy, like, that's what I want to be. And that's what I'm looking for somebody that cares about me enough and my family to help me with my financial future, because it's really important that way. So I don't know if it's a question, but I think for me, it's a relationship that I just know that I have at that point with a person that I think is really important for athletes to have. Because athletes, look, I mean, who do we trust, right? Everybody's after an athlete. Everybody's come, hey, well, everybody thinks it's cool, whatever, to work with athletes. I think it's so important for that athlete to feel very, very confident and sure that, they know this person well enough, and this person's got their back and the expertise to help get to where they want to go, just like a coach.
No, that's a great point. It's all about who you can trust and who you can count on in those moments. Jason, I got a question for you, because I think this is really interesting. The fact that you were able to immediately transition. Mark mentioned that he studied, finance in college. He was reading the magazine. You kind of jumped into it, similar to how athletes jump into a pool of money.
Yep.
What are some immediate things that an athlete or an individual that needs to, kind of get a grip on their finances should research or should know, like right off the bat?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, I had mentioned Google before. Even if there's something that I need to brush up on these days, just running it through the search engine's a good way to do it. Even if you ask a question, you don't know exactly what you're asking, there's usually it can pull up something based off of keywords, right? We talk about SEO and digital marketing. So there's great ways in that space, in that regard, to kind of brush up on whether it's retirement contributions or find a financial advisor in your area, how to invest, what to invest in, like breaking down different asset classes. You can find all that on Google. So for me, I learned the hard way. So I went straight into studying, and I had to basically get my Series 6, which is what they required back in the day at this company. And I actually failed the test my first time through because I had no background in it. I had put in the work. I failed by one question.
Ooh.
And that's hard, right? And talk about like being an athlete, I could have been like, not doing this anymore. On to the next thing. It's not for me. And my ability to be hired by this company full time, because we were contracted at this point, like you had to get your license in order to be brought on.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, there goes my chance right there. but they actually brought me back and I was able to pass it the next time through. But kind of goes back to that athlete mentality of like, hey, you guys, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and
Yeah.
you really just need to stick to your guns and work harder, do the little things right, study harder, and you'll pass it the next time. So that was my personal experience. But again, Google podcasts are great, like your podcast. There's a lot of great podcasts out there that have a lot of information that I think that a lot of athletes can use. Seminars. Mark had mentioned to me that, back when he was playing, whether it was the NFLPA or specific ministries that he was involved in, they actually brought in financial advisors to talk to the athletes. I don't know if you had that same experience playing
Yeah.
MLS, right? You had
Yeah,
people
we
that come
do.
in and kind of educate you as well. So that's a great way to get real-time feedback.
And it's all about being proactive because they're available, but not every athlete utilizes them. So take advice from Mark and Jason. If it's available, take advantage of it and really be proactive around your finances. In this world today, alternative investments are, very popular amongst athletes and individuals. Do you guys have like a philosophy around alternative investments or a deal flow process that you help your clients approach? Or is it like a one-off basis? How does that work
Yeah.
in your firm?
So every financial plan and investment strategy is custom for us. No two clients are going to be the same. For example, if I have a recently retired athlete, if they need to generate a stream of income, let's say they've got their retirement savings, but they also have extra money on the side. Our core philosophy, something that we believe strongly in, and we've done some studies on or read books that have talked about time-tested returns with creating an all-weather portfolio, dividend payers, dividend growers, in terms of like equity style are types of investments. Those. Yeah, we really, really like those. So I would say that's kind of like our core philosophy and investment strategy is like, even no matter who it is, right? You could have a young investor that's got a smaller core of dividend payers and dividend growers, can be reinvested to buy more shares. And then you can turn on that income spigot when you need an income stream. Or a recently retired athlete that needs to generate more income and need cash now, you can do that as well with that core portfolio. And then we'll have
real quick for someone that may not know the difference between, dividend paying stock. Can you just give a synopsis?
Absolutely. Sorry about that. So basically a dividend payer, think of, used to be like your mom and dad's boring companies, but a lot of companies these days, for example, Microsoft actually would be considered a large cap growth stock. So a company that focuses more on capital appreciation, basically takes a lot of cash and borrows money to be innovative, create new products, try to be at the forefront of their industry. It actually pays a dividend, a growing dividend over the past few years. So that would be what's considered a dividend grower. So it's an income stream. So you own company X, you buy it at $100 a share. If you sold it at 200, the $100 is capital appreciation, right? Because you bought it at 100, went to 200, that 100's capital appreciation. Well, the cherry on top of that is if it's a dividend payer, you're also getting quarterly dividends from these companies as well. So not only do you have the capital appreciation bucket on this side, you have the income bucket as well. It's generating a nice to have income stream, whether you reinvest it to buy more or you take the dividend and make it go to cash. You can do either or. So it's basically allowing, I like to say it's compounding the compound interest, right? Because you have compound interest in the capital appreciation side. And then you can also take this income, which most companies don't pay dividends, right? A lot of them don't. You can reinvest that to buy additional shares to only help that compound interest multiply even further.
No, thank you for that. That means a lot that you explained that. I think it's really important to understand the different unique alternatives and options that, people have as it pertains to growing their wealth. From the athlete perspective, Mark, the average is 3 to 4 years. You were able to double that. Not every athlete has the luxury of that accomplishment. How do you get athletes to think in the mindset of, all right, what I'm making now may be gone, so I need to plan accordingly to build from this springboard of wealth that I'm accumulating, even though I may not have hit my second contract, or I may not have hit that, some of these bigger contracts, I'm still on my rookie deal, or I'm still on like a veteran minimum, whatever that looks like. How do you get the mindset of an athlete that thinks they might play forever to think, we got to make sure we're building this portfolio now with what you have versus what you're gonna get?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. I think athletes get caught up in, especially because of the money. You're young and you're making money, depending on sport. I mean, I'm kind of a blanket statement here, but you're probably making more money than you could make, going straight to a job, and you're thinking big and all these things, that are out there. And there's a Bible verse that I think about is that says that if you're faithful with a little, I'll make you faithful with much more. And I think what's really important is that athletes need to understand that this isn't a monopoly game. We're not throwing, we're not trying to, it's real money. It's money that has its opportunity to make your life significantly different if you handle it well with even where you are at the moment. So it's the idea of being a good, good steward of what you have at the moment, and really building a base. I know when I first came out, I mean, my goal was, look, I had a wife and a young child. And, my goal was, I just want to play long enough to try to get a house out of this, like if I could just buy a house, that would be great. And I think having smaller goals like that, especially when you're just starting out, is really good, is setting some goals and having some things that you want to try to accomplish with this money. There'll be people, sometimes family members, who come at you, they need help, whatever. And these are all good things to do, but just like this, as we used to all talk about, we know, right? This thing could end at any play. I mean, you're only one play away from being done. And so you have to be really good at planning that out and sticking with that plan, and just trying to, each year as you're in the league, trying to take the money that you're having and use it and build upon, what you've already accumulated to that point, to try to get some type of goal at the end of it. Right. And if you're fortunate to play, 5, 10, 8 years like I did, I mean, again, that's really rare. Most people are going to go out by an injury. We know the statistics. I mean, there are very few people that go out retiring on top of the world. We usually go out because we get cut or we get injured and it ends, right? I mean, that's pretty much the end game of being an athlete is usually negative. Yeah. I mean, it's very few. I can only think of a couple quarterbacks in the NFL that ever went out on their own terms. That's why you keep looking at Tom Brady, thinking, man, you have a chance to go. Like, keep thinking, man, if I had a chance to know, I'm like, it's okay to go out on your own terms. They're like on top of the world. You don't want to stick around too long where you look like you stayed too long. Exactly. And I'm not saying he's in that spot, but I mean, there's only a few people that can make those things happen. Most of us go out before we're ready to go out. So again, it's just being a good steward of what you have now, and making sure that every year that you're in the league, or whatever your sport you're playing, is you're being good with that money that you have, and making plans and goals with that.
No, that's what it's all about. You hit the nail on the head. When it comes to, legacy, you're building a family business. Jason, you're in a family business, and you came from a family business. As athletes, it's all about legacy. We want to take care of our family. What are some financial moves that they can make, while they're playing? We talked about, thinking for the long term, to help with this legacy. First thing you see an athlete do in the draft, oh, I want to buy my mom a house, or I want to, how do we get athletes to think legacy, and what are some financial moves that fit that description?
That's a great question. So as athletes, no matter the sport, you have a game plan and a playbook. And we've mentioned this multiple times in this podcast, right? But if you can get an athlete to sit down with you and talk about their goals, their desires, their wants, whether it be to buy a house for their parents, or to take care of a child or wife or a family, whatever it may be, cars, whatever they're looking for, being able to build a real-time financial plan, which again, for me as a certified financial planner, I love it because it's putting together a puzzle. It's strategy. Things are constantly changing in the world. So if you can get an athlete to sit down, especially with their family, their loved ones, their wife, their children, whoever it may be, husbands, and be able to talk to them through a plan, say, okay, so you want X, Y, Z. here's how we get there. Here's what kind of cash funding you're going to have to put up to get to these goals. And we can't deviate from that, because if we allocate more money up front to a house or overspend in a specific area, that's going to cut that legacy and that longevity of that money that you were hoping to grow and compound over the long term. So first thing is that solid game plan, solid foundation, build a good base. And then, like Mark said, do the little things right. Doing the little things right, that is what's going to be key. Invest early, often, every 2 weeks, every month, when you get your paychecks, throw 10% away into the savings account, invest, 10%, live off of, you want to live off, 30 to 50% of it total. You don't want to overspend like we talked about, but that's the key, is doing the little things right and be consistent. And that kind of plays into the financial plan piece and making adjustments along the way, calling audibles when we can.
I think it's, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry. It's just going to add, I think it's really what he just said is really, really critical, is building a plan around it. And I would just add one thing. Legacy for me is about helping other people as well. I think that whether you're given to your church or, to the Boys and Girls Club, or somebody who helped, maybe somebody that helped you get to where you were, that's building legacy. It's giving back into the people that have needs and maybe even helped you get to where you are. And I know one area that was really helpful for me and my wife is we started our own family, that, you can create family foundations. If you don't know where to give, maybe there's, you create your own foundation and around some theme or something that you want to support. So I would just say another way to legacy is a part of that plan, like Jason's talking about, is that giving piece to, there's no greater joy than giving money. I know it, we always want to hold on to it, but there's freedom in being free to give away under wisdom. I don't mean like give it all away. I'm not saying that, but giving back is really important to do and builds legacy, I think, for athletes and families long term.
No, definitely. When you give, you ultimately receive at the end of the day. And I'm not saying just to give because you might get something on the back end, but it feels better to give and to help others. And, Jason, I love what you said around, just the whole financial picture. And what's great about it is that a lot of the things that help in finance are similar to the things that help in sports. Which is what the theme of this podcast has been. It's like, be consistent. Small goals lead to big wins. Like all these different things, behavior around, and your mentality around reputation. And it's amazing to see, like, I don't want to say sometimes the simplest things are the hardest things. And that's why finance is such a complex thing at the end of the day, is because we have the behaviors, we have the external factors of family and, friends and spending habits. But when you try to break it down, that's why it's so important to have a financial coach or a financial advisor or someone that's an expert to help bring you along the road. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to share more about your story, but most importantly, how athletes specifically, but individuals can, build their own financial pyramids. So before we let you leave, I want to ask each of you, like, what's one hindrance that will stop an individual from, building the ultimate financial success? And then what's one thing an athlete can do right now to change the trajectory of their financial path?
Those are great questions. Hindrance. Honestly, the emotion piece, the psychology of investing has never been more important. Okay. So that is going to be your biggest hindrance. A lot of people this last year, mentioned at the beginning, don't want to invest or have stopped investing because they're scared about what's going on or what the markets are doing. That's the best time to invest. So if somebody that is having a little bit more difficult time with the psychological side of investing, if you think about it, this is the only time, and when something goes on sale, people run out of the store screaming. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Think about Black Friday videos you see on social media, right? People are beating each other up in stores because everything's on sale. Like the PlayStation 5 is now like $100 off and people are killing each other over it. when the stock market, which you're investing in real companies with real growth potential and American ingenuity and innovation, and you can be a part owner in that, and people run out of the store screaming.
I got to clip that part. That's
right?
a great analogy. That's a great analogy.
That's a hindrance, right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
people are scared to put your money where your mouth is, get in and get invested. And that is only going to all help, again, the compound interest factor 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, because you're buying at a lower valuation.
Yeah.
The greatest thing somebody can do to change their trajectory would be, I say, talking with an advisor, at least starting to do some research, asking the questions to people in your community. I'm sure you know a lot of advisors by now, and your friends can go to you, or listeners can go to you and say, hey, Moby, like, so here are my goals. You have anybody that might kind of align with that, or anybody that you can trust? Because there are 3 stages to a human relationship: knowing somebody, liking somebody, and then trusting somebody. Yeah. And when you build that trust, that's when the advisor-client relationship can really flourish. So knowing somebody, liking somebody, then trusting somebody. So obviously that trust factor already comes along if you can actually recommend somebody.
Oh, I like that. Definitely have to write that down. That was a gem. Thank you so much, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, end it with you.
I don't have a lot to add there. I think that was really, really good. I would just, the one thing I would add is, I know, as an athlete, if I can put it into an athlete perspective, when I think about the challenges as an athlete, is that you work your tail off. For football players, you work your tail off all week in practice, and then there comes a time when you're standing on the sidelines, and they've sung the national anthem, and there's a crowd in the stadium, and everybody's excited, and you got to step over that line and go play, and you got to go start making plays. And there's a fear factor. It's like, I got to go to the bathroom. I got to go back to the locker. Right? I mean, as athletes, we're dealing with fear all the time, and we've learned that we can't be afraid. Like, we got to get in the game and go play. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, but I'm going to deal with whatever comes to me. But I got to get in the game. We talk a lot about that, Jason and I, with people. It's like, man, just get in the game. I mean, even if we have to start with a small little bit, and because if you're afraid, it's like, if you got time frame, if you've got a long perspective and investments, like, you got to get in the game. You can't afford to lose the opportunity for compound interest to take effect in your life. If you're you got to get in the game and go have some fun. So get your coaches, listen to what they do, and then go play, right? And have some fun, and then make adjustments as you go, and you'll enjoy it. It's a great ride. There's a lot of cool things to learn in the financial business, a lot of things that I think, educate yourself, get those things, into your head, and understand what you need to do, and keep after it. And if you need help, ask somebody to help you do it. So that's the biggest thing for me, is getting in the game, because I see so many people, Jason, just like, that's where the big mistake has been. They've waited 10, 20, 30 years to get invested. And it's like, you can't make that back up. I mean, you're so far behind, because you've lost that compound interest, that power of 72, which is basically, compounds on itself. That explode. Einstein said it was the 8th wonder of the world, compound interest. And if you don't take advantage of it, as a young athlete, you're being really short-sighted, and kind of, you're just being dumb. You got to get in the game. You got to let that take advantage, because, man, if so I can't stress that enough, because I've seen so many people wait, and you can't afford to wait.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Because I always see those infographics of like, individual A versus individual B. Individual A is like, I'm going to start investing once I have $10,000 saved, and then individual B is like, I'm just going to start investing now. And the graphic is just so amazing. It's unbelievable. So. I just want to thank you both, first and foremost, for taking the time out your day. I know it's busy, especially at the start of the year. Everyone's trying to figure out their 2023 plans. But lots of gems were shared. If anyone, if you're listening to this podcast, I suggest you have a notebook. There's a lot of gems that I wrote down that you will probably write down. But if anyone would like to connect with you, we're going to have your information in the show notes. But how can they connect with you guys? And before we let you go, this is podcast that's educational and informational only. Jason and Mark are both financial advisors, but we are not giving financial advice. So don't email me talking about, well, Mark said this and Jason said that. Make sure you consult with your team or reach out, hire them, and then they can help
There
you
we go.
in real life. But this is informational and educational only. Appreciate you guys once again. I'll let you guys take some time if you guys want to share your information, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks so much, Amobi, again for having us. It's again a pleasure and a blessing to be here. But if people want to reach out to us, easiest thing to do, honestly, we got a brand new website we just launched, Boyer FS, so BOYER, F as in Frank, S as in Sam.com. You can schedule an appointment with us on there. We have some great like media blogs that are very educational, inspirational, informative. So that's the easiest way. And then LinkedIn, Jason Jacobi, Mark Boyer, and don't have Instagram approved yet, but hopefully that's soon enough because I know it's a big platform. But website and LinkedIn's probably the easiest way.
Perfect. And then also we'll also have that in the show notes as well. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week for another episode. Over and out.